So I kind of hinted at this yesterday, but today we're going to do a off-season kind of wish list, an early edition of it. We're still in December, season's not over, 2 games left, but I know some fans are kind of checked out this year, which I totally get. So I'm going to try and reach everybody here and put out some content for the future of the Giants, and I'm going to give some re-signings, guys I want to let walk, some cuts, free agent signings, and pretty much all that stuff. So no draft. I haven't really, I've looked into some draft prospects, not everybody. I probably won't know a lot until like February, March, so I'll probably do more draft stuff around that time. For now, it's free agency and cuts and all that, but hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Leave in the comments what you want this offseason for your wish list, and hopefully you guys enjoy. All right, so let's get it started with the Giants free agents. I mean, I probably left some guys out, some guys that aren't as important, but these are the main guys here. So Leonard Williams, I would try to bring Williams back on a deal that's in the $14 to $15 million per year range for about 4 years. He's still pretty young. He's like 26, so you give him a 4-year contract, that's fine. If he asks for more than that, I'm fine with letting him go, and then you take Dalvin Tomlinson for cheaper. I mean, it's not like I know Leonard Williams is the better player than Dalvin Tomlinson, but every man has a price, and when you're going over $15 million a year for a guy like Leonard Williams, I ask myself, is it worth it? And I really don't think it's worth it above that money. I don't want to be in a situation where we regret that contract after. So if we let him walk, we get our 4th-round pick back from the Jets, which would be nice. I'll take that 4th-round pick. So at least there's a bonus of letting him walk. Now, I do want him back. It just has to be for the right price. I will say that. For Logan Ryan, now this guy was just re-signed, so this one is pretty much useless at this point. But I said he'll be 30 next season, so I want it to be a 2-year contract. I haven't seen the exact details. It was a 3-year deal, but hopefully more of a 2-year deal. They gave him about, I'm trying to think what the numbers were. They gave him about $10 million per year, a bit over that. So that was kind of around my range of about $9 million. So we were kind of on the same page there. So that's okay. I like the Logan Ryan deal. Hopefully it's more of a 2-year deal. For Dalvin Tomlinson, assuming that we sign Leonard Williams and Logan Ryan in this scenario, I don't see us keeping Dalvin Tomlinson, unfortunately. Now, for the positional value believers like me, I believe that finding a run-stuffing nose tackle, defensive tackle in the middle rounds in free agency is a lot easier than finding a guy like a Leonard Williams that can do it all. Leonard Williams can stop the run and get to the passer. It's harder to find those guys than to find a guy like Dalvin Tomlinson. And we have a Dalvin Tomlinson replacement later in this video. We'll get to that. So hopefully the Giants, if they let Dalvin Tomlinson walk, will have an easier time finding the run-stuffing nose tackle, which I think would be easier in my opinion than finding a Leonard Williams type guy. For Wayne Gallman, unless the Giants are set on drafting a running back in the middle rounds or take a free agent running back, it would probably be smart to bring back Gallman, especially with Saquon Barkley coming off the ACL surgery. I hope Saquon's healthy, but if he's not, then you kind of need to have some insurance there. So bringing back Gallman on like a 1-year, $4 million deal is fine with me. If he gets a bigger contract elsewhere and wants to leave and gets more guaranteed touches, then that's fine. That's his decision, and I'm happy for him. But I think for the Giants, it would make sense to bring him back. For Kyler Fackrell, the Giants don't need to bring him back. He has not played in a while due to the injury. But assuming that Zimenez and Carter come back, it's fine not having him. But he is a Patrick Graham guy, and Patrick Graham, unless he gets a head coaching job, which probably won't happen, but assuming he's back Patrick Graham, this is a Patrick Graham guy. So if Patrick Graham wants Kyler Fackrell in his system, then you bring back Kyler Fackrell. So I don't really see why not. I wouldn't spend more than like $3 or $4 million on the guy for 1 year, but if the Giants can get him on a cheap contract once again, then I feel like Kyler Fackrell will be a good guy to bring back. For Cam Fleming, I personally want Nate Solder cut. We'll get to that later. So bringing back a guy like Cam Fleming on a similar deal for about 1 year, $3 million, really not bad at all. The Giants have had success, and Dave Gettleman specifically has had success with these stopgap type right tackles. Mike Remmers last year, Cam Fleming this year. Neither guy was terrific or fantastic, but they're holding their own. Cam Fleming is doing an okay job, so he's fine. I would bring him back. He can play both tackle spots. It's nice to have a guy like that on the roster. For Dion Lewis, Dion is now north of 30 years old, has recent fumbles on kickoffs, and he's not getting any younger. I think the Giants can find a cheaper replacement. Not to say Dion Lewis is making a lot of money, but it's probably over $1 million. The Giants can find a running back at around 4, 5, 6 that is probably making 6 figures that they can bring in and probably kind of get a guy who's faster and more explosive. I like Dion Lewis. He's had a nice career, but I just don't really see the point in bringing him back. I want to get younger, so I'm fine with letting him walk. For Colt McCoy, I'm going to miss him screaming Omaha 60 times per game when he's starting, but yeah, the Giants can do a lot better at backup quarterback. You can tell by the thumbnail I had a quarterback in there. I've talked about it in the past, so I want someone else. So Colt McCoy, I'm fine with letting him walk as well. So that's it for the Giants free agents. There's probably some other guys, as I mentioned, not really big names like Jabal Sheard or someone like that. Maybe like a CJ Board. I don't care what they do with those guys. If they bring them back, great. If not, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, so it's fine. But that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this part. Let me know who you would keep and all that. But let's get into the next segment, which will be the cuts for the Giants. All right, so first one here is Kevin Zeitler. I think Zeitler's had a couple of nice seasons here. He might have slightly regressed this year as compared to last year. He's not going to be worth the $14.5 million cap hit, in my opinion, for 2021. So the Giants can save $12.5 million by cutting him. They also have a much cheaper option than Shane Lemieux entering year 2. They can try to put Lemieux at right guard, maybe put Hernandez at right guard and put Lemieux at left guard. But either way, they have 2 guys there that play guard. Hopefully they make that work. I don't think taking Zeitler for $14.5 million makes a lot of sense at this point. And plus, he's like 31 years old now. Nate Solder. Nate Solder took the year off. It pushed his contract back, so we'll be paying Nate Solder in his dead cap until 2022. Horrible, but the Giants, as I mentioned here, they will be paying him, a lot of money next year. If they do cut him, I think he's making $16.4 million next year or something crazy. They can save themselves $3.4 million. I think it's $13 million in dead cap if they cut Solder. Now, you may just say to yourself, it's probably just worth keeping him. I'd rather save the $3.4 million. It's not worth having Nate Solder on this roster, especially if you bring back Cam Fleming. You have Andrew Thomas, you have Matt Parrott. What is the point of bringing back Nate Solder? I would rather have the $3.4 million to spend elsewhere. Nate Solder was a mistake. You move on. People have credited Dave Gettleman for moving on from mistakes. Well, let's move on from this mistake as well, please. I just think it makes the most sense. Golden Tate. I give Golden Tate credit for buying in once again after the turmoil that was earlier in the season with him not getting the targets and kind of just being a bit outspoken in certain situations. Seems like Joe Judge got him in the right direction. So if they cut him, they save $6.1 million. Plus, he's 32 years old. There's really no point in keeping him. Get a younger guy in there, like Austin Mack, or maybe we have Dante Pettis next year. Hopefully, we draft a guy. We'll find out, but I don't think bringing back Golden Tate makes much sense at all. For David Mayo, he's clearly a Gettleman guy, but I think the smart thing to do would be to cut him, and you save the $2.3 million and use a much cheaper option like a TJ Brunson who's making the 6 figures. You can save about $1.5 million, or he is making $1.5 million in year 2, whatever it is. But TJ Brunson's the cheaper option. It makes a lot of sense. David Mayo is not too impressive in my mind. I think it's time to move on there. Save yourself that extra money. And lastly, Spencer Pulley. Don't think he's played this year. He played 1 game last year, looked terrible in it. I think it was against the Jets, actually. So they gave him $8 million. I was not too thrilled about that. I thought it was a bit pricey. The Giants can save $2.7 million and have no dead cap. It seems like a no-brainer situation to me. And if the Giants cut all these guys, they would have a ballpark estimate saved of $27 million for next season. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't see why not. The only one you can really argue maybe is Zeitler, maybe Nate Solder. I think people are fine with Tate, Mayo, and Pulley. For Solder, I explained it. I just don't think it's worth having him here. You have 3 other tackles on this roster that are probably better than him, honestly. So it's fine. Maybe Nate Solder took the year off and is a great player. I really don't expect that, but you never know. For Kevin Zeitler, I think the Giants have a much younger option, a cheaper option, and I just want to see Shane Lemieux grow into a better player and see what he can do. I mean, you're better off doing that than trying to fill a spot with a veteran Kevin Zeitler making an insane amount of money. So I just think it makes a lot of sense. But with that being said, let's get into the free agents now. So for the free agents, I have to say this is only December. Some of these will change, but for right now, these are the guys I want. So first one, the big one, the big fish, and you guys might have different opinions. Some people like Allen Robinson. I love Allen Robinson. That's fine. Kenny Golladay, who has his injury history. There's probably some other guys I'm forgetting, but the bigger name free agents out there. Some people like Bud Dupree coming off the ACL. That's a little sus, but we'll find out what the Giants actually do. For me personally, it's Shaq Barrett. So Barrett was a guy that when the Bucs signed him in 2019 for 1 year, $4 million, I was like, wow, that is a really good value for a guy like Shaq Barrett, and I never expected him to have 19 and a half or 20 sacks, whatever it was last year, but he did it. He has been a monster for them. He plays in a 3-4 outside linebacker, so the scheme is not going to be much different for him. I feel like he could slide right in here and be a really, really good outside linebacker for this team. Now, I know you might look at his numbers last year compared to this year and be like, wow, Shaq Barrett really dropped off. But when I went back and watched some film of him, and a lot of it is like him dropping back in coverage, not rushing the quarterback as much. So I'm like, you know what? He hasn't really regressed much as a player. It's just the way they're using him. I think Shaq Barrett's still a very good player. He can stop the run as well as anybody. I feel like giving him the money would not be a bad idea. I would have it for 4 years, $75 million. Maybe it's a bit more, a bit less, hopefully a bit less. But that is a fair contract in my opinion. The Giants would fill a very, very big positional need at outside linebacker. I think Shaq Barrett, at 28 years old, by the way, would be a really nice fit for the Giants. Number 2, Jacoby Brissett, 28-year-old quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, not sure how much he'll cost. He's making $15 million a year right now. I forgot what the contract is. If it was 3 years, 45, or 2 for 30, whatever it was. But Brissett is a guy that has worked in the past with the Giants quarterback coach currently, and Jerry Shaplinsky, I think his name is. And he really helped make Brissett into a better quarterback. And Brissett might look at the Giants like Brissett might be in a situation where he might get more money to go elsewhere, but he might look at the Giants as a better situation because there's a lot of uncertainty with Daniel Jones. We won't know after this year if Daniel Jones is the guy. We won't know if Daniel Jones will even stay healthy in year 3. Jacoby Brissett might look at the Giants as his best shot or situation for playing time for 2021. So based on that alone, and going back to his old quarterback coach and even knowing Joe Judge probably, he might look at the Giants as like a good situation for him personally, and I have it for a 1-year, $10 million deal. Hopefully it could be more towards $7 or $8 million, but we'll find out. I think having Brissett would be really good. And I've also explained it this way. If you're the Giants, you don't want to be in the 2021 season having the one deficiency on your roster be the quarterback. We don't really know who Daniel Jones is. There's people that think he could be really good with the right pieces around him. There's people that think he's absolute trash, and there's people that kind of are in the middle. I'm kind of a little below the middle. I don't really expect him to be a franchise quarterback. I hope the Giants give him year 3, but I don't want to be in a situation next year where the Giants have this elite defense and really good weapons, but the one problem is Daniel Jones. You don't want to be in that situation, so at least you'll have an insurance option with Jacoby Brissett, so that would be nice to have. For the next guy, William Jackson III, I believe it is. William Jackson, the cornerback for the Bengals, been a really solid player for a long time. He doesn't get talked about too much. Playing for the Bengals has something to do with that. He did miss his whole rookie 2016 season, a former first-round pick. He's been an above-average NFL corner ever since. I think he was awesome his rookie year. He kind of took a step back since then, but he was like elite his rookie year. He's been relatively healthy ever since. He won't have this James Bradbury-type impact for the Giants, and not many people will, of course. But as a number 2 cornerback, I feel like William Jackson III would be a really, really good option. Now, I don't know how much it'll cost to have it for 3 years. $30 million is what I would want to give him, but in a pandemic year and, teams not giving out monster contracts, maybe you might get William Jackson for $10 million per year. That would be great. 28 years old, very solid player. He's probably more of a cornerback 1 this year, and he's been fine. But in the past, he's had Drake Kirkpatrick there to be more of a cornerback 1. So I think having him as a cornerback 2 would be awesome. I don't want to rely on him to be a cornerback 1. I think he's a very, very high-end cornerback number 2. I think he'd fit this team very well. So William Jackson's a guy I hope the Giants can get on a nice contract. Here's a familiar name. This is if Dalvin Tomlinson leaves. I kind of hinted at this one before. But the good news is that the Giants don't have to pay Damon Snacks Harrison 5 years and $46 million like they did back in 2016. This time they can probably get him on a 1-year, close to veteran minimum deal for Damon Harrison, who is now playing for the Seahawks. He's still doing really well on first and second downs at stopping the run. He's still playing well. If he wants to come back to the Giants, that's fine. He's 32 years old. He has been outspoken on Twitter about loving his time on the Giants. This is probably one of his favorite teams, honestly. He speaks very highly about the Giants. He has no ill will towards Gettleman or anybody like that. I just feel like the Giants I don't know why he got traded, honestly. I forget what the exact reason was, but he definitely loves the Giants. I could see him coming back if the Giants did give him a contract. So that might be like your 1-year stopgap replacement for Dalvin Tomlinson if you can't find a nose tackle replacement. Last guy. This one's more random and under the radar, but I remember watching this guy, J.J. Taylor, last year for Arizona. He was 5'6". I thought he was like 5'5", but apparently he's 5'6". He's this really fun, quick, small guy. He reminds me of like Tariq Cohen for the Bears, and he's not as explosive as Cohen. I think he ran like a 4'6", which is why he dropped in the draft. He seems faster than 4'6", but J.J. Taylor to me is a solid running back. He could be a Tariq Cohen type. If the Giants get like an explosive weapon like that, then why not? It's going to be for a very, very, low contract, a 1-year deal, close to the minimum. I think the Patriots have a really good chance of bringing him back if they like him, but if not, then the Giants might as well take a shot here. Like as I said, I want to move on from Dion Lewis. Maybe the Giants draft a running back in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, but if they don't, I feel like signing J.J. Taylor can't do any harm. He's, a really fun guy to watch. I had fun watching him. I just don't see the downside in this. If it doesn't work out, you cut bait and you basically lose nothing. So I feel like you might as well do it. But anyway, I wanted to add, I had Chris Conley on here, the Jaguars wide receiver, former Chief as well. He's a solid player, but I just don't know how much cap space the Giants will actually have. I had them saving $27 million in the last graphic. I don't want to go too overboard. I didn't put all the money together. Like when I actually do this video for real down the line, when when the franchise tags are made up and all that, I'll look more into the financial side of it. But for now, I kind of just want to ballpark it and see what could actually kind of work for the Giants. Maybe this is, maybe the Giants could spend enough on another contract and maybe get themselves a Chris Conley from Jacksonville or someone like that at wide receiver. But this is pretty much what I have that I think would work and what would fit for the Giants. But that'll do it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. As I said, I'll do a video like this down the line when the franchise tags are made up because, there's going to be guys that are franchise tagged. Maybe Shaq Barrett's franchise tagged once again, then all of a sudden I'm screwed. And, maybe a guy like Allen Robinson is franchise tagged or Kenny Galladay. So there's always stuff to watch out for with things like that. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Leave in the comments, once again, who you want this offseason, what your wish list would be, just like me. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys next time.